Good morning, YouTube. Arizona RE here, out for a ride on a beautiful Sunday morning with the missus. So here's what we figured out. When I'm on the infield, I'm usually leading us, and one of the reasons is because then the infield can sort of set the pace, because the infield is a lot slower than the Bonneville. But I think when I'm riding the Tiger, I will be following the missus. And here's what I've noticed. When I'm riding the infield and I'm up ahead of her, I'm often told about how often I'm speeding and I'm taken away from the lights really fast. Which on the infield, honestly, I'm not sure that's a true statement. And so here's what I've noticed. When the missus takes the lead, we tend to ride a lot faster. Because she takes off, and because I'm not in front of her on the infield, she takes off a lot harder. I don't think she realizes it, but she takes off a lot harder when I'm not right in front of her with the infield. So we'll let her take the lead. Gives us a little bit more riding to do, a little more aggressive riding. And we're riding her route this morning, so this is one of those things when riding with someone who has a little less experience than you, quite oftentimes, just because of the gaps in my riding history, many times when I'm riding with other folks, I'm the one who has less experience. So one of those things about riding with someone who has less experience is oftentimes they prefer someone else to lead. And one of the reasons is they would rather focus on their riding abilities and not have to focus on where the next turn is and things like that. They can just sort of follow the lead. That sort of alleviates you of that responsibility. When you're the lesser experienced rider, you can just sort of hang back, and if someone's going to take a curve faster than you, well, then you don't feel like you're holding them up either. So I can see the appeal in that. So at this point, we've discovered these trade-offs, and that's what we're working at now. She picked the route. So we came up here to the north side. Hello to Oro Valley, Arizona. I used to work up here many, many moons ago when I was a young man, first establishing myself in the workforce, and used to work outside, do a lot of landscape and construction in this area of town. All those houses up there on the hill, I've worked at, did part of their construction, or part of their landscaping, pool installation, things like that. And I could tell you there are some big fancy houses up there. Houses back then that were upwards of $1 million. Can't imagine what they are now. Those houses that are a part of that market that doesn't seem to be affected by the overall market. Because the people who purchased those types of things, they didn't feel that last economic downturn. So it's just interesting what life throws at you sometimes. You know, work at those houses. I am most certainly never going to be in a position to own one. But that's all right. I do some pretty good living on what I make. Good position to be in too, because I can eyeball some things on the Mrs. bike after I did the initial service. Saved myself a bunch of money, by the way. You know, if you weren't afraid to do the work, then by all means do the work. Even the overhead cost of having to purchase the dealer tool, you save so much money when you buy the oil and the filters yourself, which brilliantly Triumph uses the same motor oil and the same filter for both of these bikes. Bravo, Triumph. You're not having to get two different filters and two different sets of tools and things like that. Oh, it's brilliant. So even with that overhead cost of having to buy the dealer tool, which is about $100 US, and another $25 for the second VIN number registration. So my Tiger 800 here was the original VIN on that cable, and then the additional VIN would be the one for the Bonneville. And you're able to run all the diagnostic checks that the dealers are able to do. And it's just brilliant. And if I went with the cost of first service, the advertised cost of first service for both of these bikes, just that first service, we'd have been looking at spending, especially since they came due about the same time. I tend to rack miles on my bike more quickly than my wife does. And as they both came due about the same time, that would have been upwards of an $800 just for motorcycle service on one weekend, you know. As it was, it cost just a little under $300 total for the oil, the full synthetic oil filters for both of these bikes, and the dealer tool. I already had all the other tools necessary to make adjustments. And one of the things I was getting at just a few minutes ago was that this is a good position to ride in. You know, I always take the bikes out for a test ride anytime I do any work. But this way I'm able to see the Bonneville and the chain adjustment I made and see if it's looking wobbly or loose or too tight. And I can tell you right now, you know, I'm not poking at it, but that chain looks about right. It seems to have had the correct adjustment. It did not need much on the first service there. You know, that chain did not stretch or wasn't maladjusted from the factory to begin with. Or I should say from the dealer to begin with. So all good. Anyway, we're just out enjoying a ride this morning. I'm going to go ahead and let you folks go because I'm just rambling on. It's a Sunday ramble, if you will. You folks run out and have your own Sunday ramble. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hello, neutral. Watching the missus's back end rather than watching what I'm doing, paying attention to what